Hey guys, welcome back to Mixed Media Salad, a channel created for you by you. I am your host, Ryan McBride, and today we're going to take a look at the Affinity Designer Update 1.2. So this update's been out for I'd say about 3 weeks. I think they actually put it out just before the Easter holiday, and it kind of snuck it in under the wire there for us. And so you guys have been able to kind of tinker with it, but some of you are still emailing me and asking me, are you going to do a review of this update? And so this is what I'm going to do today, but the way that I'm going to go about it is I'm going to take a look at their demo video and kind of express some of the things that that I'm seeing here and some of the things that they're highlighting, and hopefully give you a better idea about where they've been and where they're going and how quickly they've gotten to where they are right now. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a look at this video. So in this part of the video, what they're demonstrating again is how fast this application is and how many levels of zoom that you have without any loss of speed. And I think this application does that very well. In other applications, you can enlarge something or zoom in only so far, and even after you get there, to the finest zoom level, you find that the application starts to chug a little bit, and it just doesn't seem to happen here with Affinity Designer. So again, they're always stressing how fast this application is, and you guys will see if you are using it. Okay, so this was a big one, guys. Text on a path. This was a feature that should have been there when it first came out, and it wasn't. And I think it was a little bit of an oversight for Affinity. They didn't realize how badly people would need this particular feature, but now it's here, and it's great. It's fast, and it works the way that you would think it would work. So I'm glad they actually got this done, because that was something that a lot of people were complaining about, and it just kept coming up in the forums. And it goes to show you that Affinity Designer really takes their time, and they really listen to us. So if enough people are talking about the need for a particular feature, they'll give it some strong consideration. So you definitely know that they're listening. Again, smooth gradients. Sometimes you get a little bit of dithering, and sometimes using gradients can be a little bit slow as well too, where they can actually show you how smooth the gradients are and how fast this application is. Once again, the way they're able to adjust this gradient on the fly and give you real-time information and still give you a very crisp and nice looking image at the same time. So real-time pixel preview, which is an awesome feature. If you're working on a very high detail image, maybe it's an icon, as you can see here, and when you're in vector mode, you really don't know how it's going to look once it's exported as a raster image. And so with this preview mode, you're able to see your illustration in its pixel mode when it's actually exported, while you're still working in vector. So very powerful, very useful. If you're not using it, you definitely want to use it. And I find people who are working on mobile devices, mobile applications basically, or interfaces, will find this tool very, very useful. Raster brushes, guys. A lot of the techniques that were kind of created through using Photoshop and Illustrator, a lot of illustrators would actually do all their vector work in Illustrator and then move it out to Photoshop to do all this raster work. Well, now you have actual raster brushes within a vector application, which is really cool. And why this is so important is, vectors are just way too clean, and sometimes you want to provide some sort of realism to your work. So you definitely want to use some raster brushes in this situation. So it's a definite technique that is useful, and it's here in Affinity Designer. At the same time we have raster brushes, we have vector brushes, which are just as powerful. And as you see here, we're looking at an image that looks very much like a raster, but this brush is actually a vector brush, and you're able to make changes on the fly to the nodes on that brush. Very powerful stuff. And you know, here once again, all in Affinity Designer, one application. Compatibility, guys, it's so important. Working in Affinity Designer, you're able to export and get to Photoshop, and you're able to bring your Photoshop files into Affinity Designer. Again, now we have Adobe Illustrator support, PDF, freehand. You old freehand users who have some freehand files that you wish you can open up again, you can now bring that into Affinity Designer. And also on the export side, we can export PNGs, SVJs, EPS, TIFFs, so there's always support for getting things in and out of Affinity Designer from a lot of the prominent applications. Okay, so let's just go back just a little bit here and let's take a look. Here, these are adjustments that are being made with a hue, saturation, and what is it? Hue, saturation, and lightness adjustment layer. And here they're able to make adjustments to the color of something very quickly in Affinity Designer just by using this adjustment layer. Okay, so I think that's, you know, very powerful stuff here if you want to make color adjustments really quickly without having to select individual objects and kind of change the mood and feel of a particular graphic or illustration. Okay, so we got outline view, very powerful stuff. This illustration was done by a member of the community. I forget the name of the artist, but you can definitely find him on the forums and take a look at his work. I believe he actually shared this file as well too, so you can download it and see how he kind of put it together with a lot of gradients in here, a lot of detail. And with this split view, we can actually take a look and see his outlines for all his shapes. That you know, gives you more detail as far as making adjustments of certain elements, which is, you know, very powerful, and being able to see all that information. Okay, so we have non-destructive Booleans, which they call compound Boolean shapes in Affinity Designer. And as you can see over here by the name compound, and the way that you invoke that is in a regular Boolean, you take two objects and you would either, you know, intersect, or you'd be able to combine them or subtract them. There's a different there's about 5 different Boolean functions. But what makes compound Boolean so powerful is the fact that you could hold down the Option key while you click one of these functions, and it makes a compound shape. And what that allows you to do is to be able to look at this one shape and the two elements that make up that shape and actually adjust and move them in real time without any loss of speed, and not having to go back, undo, and redo the function all over again. Now you could actually make adjustments on the fly of those two individual shapes. Only found in Affinity Designer. Actually, I think Illustrator did have it, but it just was not clearly apparent and easy to use, in my opinion. So you might disagree, but it's here in Affinity Designer, and it's very useful, very powerful stuff. Okay, so here, this shared file format, it does not matter if you start with Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo, and Photo is in beta right now, but they are definitely allowing you to use these two applications, and you can export the Affinity, you could actually send your Affinity Photo file into Affinity Designer, and your Affinity Designer file, you could export it into Affinity Photo, and just using, you know, the one file format, it doesn't matter. You could actually, you know, bring those two applications together and use them, you know, pretty seamlessly. So without having to open one and close one or whatever, it just exports. You know, I think it says, I think it's the command is send to Photo or send to Affinity Designer. Okay, so definitely cool feature. Okay, so new features, just a rundown: text on the path, corner tool, savable undo history. That is awesome, guys, because there's been times where I've done a lot of work in the night and then I save my file, and then when I want to come back, and reopen that file, what happens is I lose all my history. Well, now in 1.2, you could save a file. It may be bigger, so definitely know that, but the fact that you could save a file with all the history and be able to go back at any point in time that you worked on something is so powerful and so useful, especially if you're sharing steps or approaches with other individuals. So I find that very useful. The brush engine is faster. It's not something that I use all that much right now, but I definitely think if you're an artist who does a lot of raster work, you'll find some serious brush improvements as far as speed, especially if you're using a tablet and you're drawing, and in some applications you get that slight delay. Well, that delay is getting smaller and smaller and almost unnoticeable in most instances, especially with Affinity Designer. And I believe also the engine is the same engine that's in Affinity Photo as well too. We have dash line styles. I showed a technique in my previous videos of creating a dotted dash line. It was kind of a substitute workaround because there was a lot of people complaining about it. And again, they're listening, they hear the complaints, and if a lot of people are complaining about certain features that are not there, then, again, they listen and they consider implementing those features. So dash lines is a feature that a lot of you who use Illustrator, who do a lot of stitching work, I know some people who do patterns and stuff for like clothing and stuff like that, and they need to show that stitch around it. I mean, that's very useful. People who are doing maps are going to definitely find that very useful, and even people who are doing just simple diagrams, they need a dotted line of some sort. So that's there. SVG slice export. I don't think I've ever seen this in any other application, and I may be wrong about this, guys. Some of you guys who use it day in, day out may see this in other applications, but I have never seen it, and I think it's very powerful for the fact that now when you could only slice up and export raster images, or a vector image. If you sliced it up and you export it, it becomes a raster image. But the fact that you can slice and export SVG images, I think is very, very powerful and very useful, especially if you're into mobile development. So definitely a plus for that feature. So hats off, Affinity. So here we are. We have multiple language support. They rebuilt the EPS export, so I guess there's more support in other areas, I guess if you're going to other applications. And if I remember looking through the improvements and fixes, I think there were problems with the export going to like Cinema 4D or something like that. So they've rebuilt it, and there's more support to export to other applications. Pixel alignment, I think they call it forced pixel alignment. It's a feature that allows people who are doing interface or application who need their pixels to be whole numbers. So basically, if you move something over or you move something up and it needs to be 3 pixels and you're at 2.9, it forces it into 3 pixels. So I think that's very useful stuff there. We got new blending modes and Affinity Photo support. Again, being able to round trip from Affinity Photo to Affinity Designer, you can now do that with ease. So there's definitely a lot of support between the two applications. It should work seamlessly at this point. Okay, so what we have here, guys, is a mockup. We have a graphic, and we have 2 window view, and you have the mockup on the left and the graphic that you're working on in real time, and that update actually is updated in the mockup. So you have a real kind of feel for the application and what it would look like as you're working, as you're developing, rather than developing it, exporting it, seeing what it looks like in a a demo screen of some sort. You can actually kind of get a real feel, and that'll improve how you design because you have a better idea of how it will look within the application, within the hardware itself. Okay, vectors are too clean, so they show you that you can add noise to vector information. Here, it's very powerful and useful because you know that paint is not just a solid color or a solid gradient. It has these little flakes of information, and you can actually apply that within this particular application by sliding the noise control in the color panel. Live pixel information here showing you guys that in real time we can make adjustments to filters and effects in real time and get that information showing on our screen and without losing any speed here, so you could design a lot faster and get the information that you need right away. The power of switching between blend modes and seeing real-time information right here, guys, in Affinity Designer 1.2. Continuous exporting, I think, is an awesome feature if you're a person who does a whole bunch of icons, and as you can see here, some of the icons that they developed here, as they're making adjustments to that icon, if you turn on the feature itself to be able to export continuously, what will happen is as you're making those adjustments, it continuously will export those adjustments. And so when you're done and you've made any changes, you don't have to go through and re-export, go through that step, because it's been doing it all along as you were making the adjustments. Very powerful stuff. Again, I don't think that's a feature I've seen anywhere before, but it's here in Affinity Designer. Okay, so this is great. This corner tool, you know, sometimes you hit a point and you don't want to have to mess around with putting different node points in and then having to make adjustments to that. And so now with the corner tool, you can make adjustments just by selecting a few points using the corner tool and actually make that curve adjustment on different shapes very quickly and very fast in real time. Okay guys, here we go. No subscription. We're seeing subscription come around for everything that we do in our life. It would be nice to have one thing where you just purchase it and you own it, and you just purchase any updates in the future if you need them. To be locked into subscription is not something that I like so much. It kind of annoys me a little bit. But for, you know, that's particularly me. From other people, it's perfectly fine. But if you're a person who likes to buy the application and just own it outright and decide if you want to update and not be, you know, manipulated in any other way, then this is definitely the application for you. Okay guys, so there you go. That was our demonstration for the Affinity 1.2 update. And I'm going to cover some of these other features. And if you're taking my course, which you'll find in the description below, you'll find that in the next couple of weeks, I will be updating with new videos that goes over how to use some of these new features, how you may use them. And so if you're already taking my course, all those updates are always free. But if you're new, you definitely want to sign up. It's worth it. You know, it's not like any other course where you purchase it and then that's it, and then you got to purchase another course and you download it. This is a course that allows you to purchase it, and as I make updates to that course, you get it for as long as, you know, Udemy's around, basically. So I think that's a benefit to you. All right, guys, thanks for listening to me, and it's been a pleasure, and we'll look forward to some more reviews, tips, and tricks in the future as well. Thanks again. This is Ronnie McBride of Mixed Media Salad, a channel created for you, by you. I am your host, and we'll catch you next time.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, and if you want to receive 50% off my training, make sure you sign up at mixedmediasalad.com.